So welcome to Satsang. Welcome back to some of you. Have you noticed that this awareness which you are has both the characteristics of stillness and movement? Many times when we talk about the recognition of the self, we talk about that stillness quality, which is what we experience in this moment, right? When we're all together and we're sitting in the quiet and supporting one another in this recognition of that which is aware in this moment. We can often come into the presence of our own stillness, which is the present moment awareness of the heart. But then there are those moments when we move. Mind moves, heart moves, body moves, life moves, apparently. And so we have this opportunity to realize that this self nature has both the qualities of stillness and movement, Shiva and Shakti. Those of you who have moved here recently, coming off your long travels, I encourage you to notice that which is aware, which is here now in this moment, isn't it? You know you are aware, you know you are here. That is not different from the awareness which was here when you were in your home country. And that at one moment you made the decision somehow, something made the decision to come to Tiruvannamalai. And so the body and the mind began to move in that direction. But I want to remind you that when you were sitting at home and you were in meditation, you are not just that stillness. And when the decision came for you to move here, to buy a plane ticket, to begin the transit with the body, this was not me. That this same recognition of being consciousness, which is present as stillness, it is the same recognition that is here as movement. The tendency for most of us, as soon as we begin to move, as soon as we begin to think, as soon as we begin to feel, we begin to say, we somehow claim that experience and say, this is me. It's because we identify with this me-ness as the body and as what's happening in the experience of the body-mind that we separate ourselves from the deep self, from the deep knowing that I am that which is aware. So part of what we are doing through coming together, spending time together, through the pointers that come during satsang, is we are coming to integrate those two qualities of stillness and movement into the recognition and the realization that in all of our activity, in all of our non-activity, in all of our coming and all of our going, in all of our stillness and all of our movement, we are simply that being consciousness. And that if there is some challenge or some difficulty we're facing, it's largely because we are reacting to the natural movement that happens. And that we assume that if we are not sitting in the position on our cushion, that it is me that is acting. But is it? Are you aware? Sitting here now, if I say to you, are you aware? Of course you say yes. There's a modicum, a little bit of stillness in you. Maybe you think not much at this moment, but for a lot of you, there's a great deal of stillness when you stop. You sit still for a few minutes. And you realize this deep presence, which you are, is here in this moment. But as soon as the body begins to move, as soon as the mind begins to move, as soon as something comes up in the emotional body, this recognition that you are aware, or that awareness is here, is veiled or clouded. What veils and clouds this recognition of being consciousness? It is the belief that in movement, the one who is acting is me. So it's not the movement itself, the life itself, which clouds the recognition of being consciousness. It is identification with the body as me, as mine. This is what clouds the recognition of being consciousness as awareness itself, which is here now. So in a way, it's fairly simple. Don't pick up this me in any of your activities, body, mind, or world. Don't pick up this identification as me. I am doing this, I am doing that. This is mine. I am responsible for this. Don't pick that up. This is the meaning of Sri Ramana Bhagavan's admonition to us to remain as you are. A lot of people think that because he was so silent and he sat so long and he spent so many years on his tucket, that what he was asking you to do was to sit silently somewhere as he did. If this was your nature, you would do that. But you may also have, as part of your nature, this tendency toward movement. What happens within your mind when this tendency toward movement comes? Do you remain aware in the recognition that that which is aware is here now? Or do you immediately grab hold of me? I am acting. I am doing this. I am the one responsible. I am that being. I take the pleasure and the pain of all of this. Do you assume the mantle of the body and then claim all of its activity as your own? This is the form of identification which will cause you to suffer. You may have noticed. So this is fairly simple to point out. But you've also noticed that it's not so easy to do. this seeing through the veil of identification. This is what takes some practice. Again, not because you are failing. Don't assume responsibility for that either. But because conditioning, which prior to this moment has had its way over your experience and your definition of self, has a momentum to it. And so the reason we call the inquiry or any spiritual discipline practice is not because you are not the self, but rather because this tendency or this momentum of conditioning has been going on for a long time. And so simply out of habit, we return to this belief that we are the body and that we are the actor, we are the doer, as soon as the body begins to move. So I encourage you now that this pointer has been given to you, as you go through your day, through your evening, through your relationships, through your thoughts, through your conditioning, to keep coming back to this recognition that that which is aware is here, not only in stillness, but also in movement. See if you can see that which never moves. Those of you who have recently done a little bit of long travel, it's easier for you in this moment, having come through the process of transporting the body from one place to another, to see that the awareness which you are, which you feel here now in satsang, is not inherently different. It is the same as the awareness which you felt in your home country. That awareness was present as you moved. It is present as you flew. It is present as you ate. It is present as you arrived. It is present as you settle. Help yourself to see. Bhagavan, this was one of his things that he used to point out to people all the time. Some of you know this from the reading. But he used to point this out to people all the time. People would say, I have just traveled a long way. He said, you have not gone anywhere. You have not gone anywhere. The body has been transported. And of course, we're so fortunate now, right? We can fly from Europe, or we can fly from Australia, or we can fly from Bali or somewhere. And we can be here in a few hours, or at the most, 24 hours if you're coming from the US or somewhere on the other side, Canada. But in those days, it was a commitment. You left in July and arrived in November. And you had to do a lot of walking and a lot of riding and a lot of bullock cart and a lot of steamship and all kinds of things like that. So we're relatively fortunate in that way. But it was somehow easier through those long journeys for Bhagavan to point out to everyone that this awareness, which they were, was the same in their home country, the same on this long journey. And there was this big frame of reference. So for us, it can be a bit of a disadvantage to be here in 8 hours from wherever we're coming from, because we don't have that opportunity to really see that the body moved, but I did not. This I, which I am, is always here, ever present, infinitely aware. And it is simply the body which moved. But for those of you who have had this recent experience, take a moment to reflect. on this interesting pointer that though the body moved, and though your experience has shifted, and the objects in your awareness at this moment are different from where they were 2 days ago or 3 days ago, there is a part of you, this deep knowing, which has done nothing. Simply went along with the heart's impulse to return to Arunachala. And that once you said yes, it all sort of just happened. Let go of being the doer and the one responsible. Come to this moment of seeing that you are both stillness as being consciousness or awareness and movement, whether that movement is in mind, body, or world. Whose dance is it? So if you'd like to speak with me, there's this talking stick, which is the recording device. It's not a microphone. I remind people it's a recording device. So that those people who come to listen to the audios afterwards can hear your question. So if you have a question or a comment.
So, Rishi, I'm Kees from Holland and I'm on a little tour.
Okay.
I'm a musician, and according what you say, how can I announce me if I play somewhere? I have to say, I am going to play nice Bansuri concert.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What shall I do?
Ah.
Because the I is not, this is a very complex thing for me.
Uh-huh. Yes, well, understand, first of all, that when we talk about I in that sense that you're talking about this, I'm going to play this music, I'm going to give this nice Bansuri concert for you, that you're pointing to the relative I, and this is a convention that we all have to do, right? Because this is a relative I.
So there are two I's, I and I, like in the Rasta movement also. They say.
Well, there are not two I's. There are not two I's. This, hopefully, maybe I didn't make it clear, but hopefully, thank you for saying that, this is exactly what I'm speaking about, is this tendency in the mind to notice that there is a relative I and an ultimate I, and it appears that there are two I's, or there is an I which is still, or an I which is moving. And this is what I'm trying to address this morning, is this recognition that there is only one I. It is not the limited I, which we talk about and we use as a convention when we're using it in terms of our relative relationships with one another. It is that supreme I, and it is not that relative I, which is playing the flute.
Okay, but I'm in movement constantly because I'm a musician. You cannot sit.
Yes, but when you say I, who are you referring to?
Yeah, I understand. But it's complex because I cannot announce me even then, because who is this I? I am just a medium, maybe. That's
yes.
How I know.
And do you say that sometimes?
Yeah, I do.
Of course. Yeah.
But so almost every sentence people use I. It's amazing.
Yes, and so in this conversation now, if I say I, what am I referring to?
To universal consciousness.
Yes, to the self. So what prevents you knowing in the deep silence of your own being that when you say I am going to play a concert for you, Bansuri, what prevents you from understanding within your own heart that this is the Supreme which is offering this concert?
Exactly. as a musician, I also it's knowable.
Yes, of
Because
course.
you practice, and at
Yes,
a certain
of
point,
course.
it's not me anymore. That
Yes,
of
yes.
course, it's always
Of
happening.
course. Of course.
It's even the goal of how you start from the beginning, Sare, Gamma, Pananisa, etc.
So where is the struggle then?
It's not a struggle. It's only it's almost impossible to not use that word in conversation.
Well, I'm not encouraging. Yes, I'm not encouraging you not to know, not to use that word. I'm asking you to know the meaning of it.
That's already happening with me, I guess.
Good.
But yeah, so you have to explain also sometimes people. As a musician, also I know I'm totally the same as all the other people, because the bakery is more important even than me, because without the bakery I cannot live. So he's making this bread at
Yes.
night. So, but as
Beautiful.
a musician, you get sometimes this endure. People like you very much, and I sometimes I say, okay, but whatever.
Yes. Yes, of course.
But anyway, that's
no. So I want to say to you. So imagine taking the one seat.
One seat.
Do you know what I mean by the one seat?
No.
Imagine you are sitting here. What changes?
Nothing. Yeah, everybody can have this stick.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Everyone already has this stick.
Yeah.
What we are doing here is reminding everyone that you are sitting on the one seat always. This is a term, for those of you who don't know, this comes from the Zen tradition. And when a Zen master is recognized and takes up the role of the teacher, he or she is invited to take the one seat. And this means to become the head, the leader of a sangha. So these are relative experiences. To take the one seat, to become the accomplished musician where the music is just flowing through, this is not different. What we are doing here is encouraging each and every one of you to find your music. It's not necessary whether anyone else knows you are the self. It's only necessary that you know it. If you know it, it makes no difference whether anyone else knows it. You don't give up your authority as the musician. You assume it in some way. But now, as you just indicated so beautifully, you don't assume the responsibility of the musician as a big heavy weight. You assume it as an act of liberation. Yes? Because you know in that moment when the music is really there, and you are the music, and it is there flowing through you, you know that you are free. Yes. Yes.
Freedom, yes.
Yes. So, don't claim this freedom. Just know that you are the vessel, the vehicle, and that you have always been that. It seemed like you went through long years of practice and so on. But there was this moment when you realized that you are the musician. So, this is not different.
Thank you. So next time I play a part of it plays.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And the other aspect of this is that when you are aware that people are enjoying and they are grateful and they are somehow wanting to make you special in that moment, that has nothing to do with you in your recognition of musician. That has to do with their
I have to separate.
With their love and with their, perhaps even their desire for themselves to be able to play like that one day.
Yes, mostly like that.
Yes. So what we are experiencing, is this recognition that the self is the self is the self, and this has no definition. So when we are experiencing that there is the music, there is the music, there is the music, and no musician, we understand and we accept that those who don't know this yet are going to think, they are going to project, if I was able to do that, it would be like this for me. But you see, the identification is still in the me.
Yeah.
Whereas for you, there is only the music. Yeah. Same is also true here. There is only the one seat. There is only the self. That's it. Everything else is the dance of creation. So we leave it at that. We leave it as the mystery. It's more fun as a mystery than we think we know everything. We understand, we don't know how this dance is happening, but somehow it has. What a great fortune, huh?
Yeah.
Very
we
good.
are quite lucky.
We are quite lucky, yeah. Very nice, very good. Thank you.
I want to ask you how to combine self-inquiry with Buddhist practice of observing respiration and body sensation. When I observe...
Wait. You want me to... First, let me answer that question before you move on to the next one. You said you want me to do what?
Clarify.
Clarify. Yes.
Practice self-inquiry.
Yes. In relation to Buddhist practice.
Yes.
Of mindfulness of breathing.
Yes.
So first, let me say that there is a compatibility there, and they also are not compatible. Okay, mindfulness of breathing, satipatthana, is in its nature supportive of the belief that there is an I. Okay? The reason I say that is that in order to take up mindfulness of breathing, and this is true for those of you who have other spiritual practices too, japa, visualization, all of the practices that are available in all the traditions, centering prayer, whatever your tradition is. In order to take up a practice like that, you have to first assume the position of I. In other words, there is a doer who is doing this practice, who is mindfully following the breath.
But if I just observing it, just it's happening, observation happening.
Yes, but how did you start that? You said, if I am just observing. You see, that's what I'm saying. You take the position of I first.
But when I meditate, observation just natural, and respiration is natural.
Yes.
It's two natural processes.
Yes, but who is the observer?
I don't know.
This is the difference between Buddhist practice or any other practice and inquiry.
When I observe respiration, I just ignore this me, this ego. If somebody appears, like
yes, eventually, absolutely.
I'm just ignoring it, and
yes,
I come just to a relative peace. Yeah?
Yes,
I just ignore it. It's somehow deep in the corner of my mind. So, and if I during doing anapana, I try to find who is observing it. It's some extra intellectual activity, or who is observing it? Probably me. But who is this me? So it's bring a lot of intellectual
Yes.
activities. That's what I'm curious how to avoid it.
Why do you want to avoid it? It seems as though it's working quite well for you. What are you trying to avoid?
I just want to make it very simple.
Then the very simplest thing to understand is that all spiritual practices and all spiritual traditions, in all spiritual traditions, result in ultimately asking the question, who? And this is the place at which they meet. Who is the meditator? Who is the breather? Who is the one who is identifying as me? Who is the one that is letting go of me? Huh?
Still, it's intellectual. When I ask who is there,
Well,
I come to my mind. And
yes, but this is the way. This is why Bhagavan said, when we get a thorn in our foot, we go to the thorn bush and break off a thorn, and we remove one thorn with the other and throw both away. This is why. Just continue. But drop this dialogue. And by dropping this dialogue, this internal dialogue, I mean, don't take so much interest in this dialogue in the mind, which says, how do I combine these? How do I put them? Just keep doing. If Satipatthana or Anapanasati works for you, keep doing that. Ultimately, you're going to ask, who is breathing? Who is meditating? Who is doing this? Who is interested? And you will find that there is no one there.
yes,
This is inquiry.
what I want to discuss with you. Buddha have anatta, the no I, no me.
Yes.
So he have it.
No self.
No self, yeah. And but he never teach self-inquiry. He come to anatta by other ways, just observing naturally. So that's why I want to understand this is two different ways, or still I have to come to focus my attention to the source. So maybe without asking question, who is I? Just maybe I should turn my attention somewhere.
You need to stop thinking. That's the difficulty. All this thinking is the difficulty. Not whether you should do this or that, but all this mind that is comparing and wanting to know, how should I do this? How should I do that? What if I do this? What if I do that? This is the difficulty.
No, when I
No.
I know what I'm doing. And when I try to do self-inquiry, it's not clear for me. So I should find some I, and I should focus on it and check it. So maybe there's a more simple way. Just focus attention to presence or to awareness. I don't know. Just I want to find the clear, easy way.
Stop thinking.
And then I should not inquire. Just stop thinking.
Yes.
Is it enough?
Yes.
Then observing respiration also is enough.
Yes.
Okay.
And then stop observing the respiration.
But why should I stop it? It's natural.
So you
process.
can stop thinking.
Okay, I agree that I should not thinking. That's why I asking.
Let me say this to you, if you see if you can hear what I'm saying. If you are observing, yes, as you are required to do in Anapanasati, you are thinking.
There's no thinking, just observation of natural breath.
If you are the observer, you are thinking.
No, I just feeling my respiration.
If you are feeling, you are thinking.
No, I don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand you don't understand. But you have to look where I'm pointing. You are wanting to understand. I am trying to push you past understanding. Where I am trying to guide you, where I'm trying to point you, you cannot go with this mind. It won't take you there. And that's what you are wanting. You are wanting your own understanding, your own, which is considerable. I'm not saying that you don't have a good, solid mind. I'm saying you need to let it thin out a little bit. This solid mind that you have, that you trust, that you have used all of your life in order to bring you here, now it is your block, it is your impediment. We had a conversation a few days ago, and you came into this space of empty awareness. Do you remember?
Yes.
Yes. And what did I say to you at that moment? Do you remember? No. Yeah, I can see that already in our conversation. What I said was, stay there. And then I was going around the room and talking to other people, and I watched you for 20 minutes. You stayed there. And you let this need to understand, you let this mind, this observer, you simply dropped it. In that moment, you dropped it, and you stayed there. This is the end of mind. It's not the end of awareness. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not the end of awareness. You had this experience already. So the instruction remains the same. The pointer remains the same. Stay there. Before thought, before the observer, before the doer. Who am I? If I understand nothing at all, ever again, am I aware?
Yes.
Yes.
So I just hold to this pure awareness,
Yes.
perceptions.
Yes. But again, it's not that I hold to this pure perception. It's that awareness is here. I don't need to do anything. You are already aware. You know you are aware. In this moment, you are here. You know you are aware. But this you is not this small you that you are thinking of, this conditioned you. When you are awareness itself, this small you, this conditioned you, this me-ness, this mindness has dissolved.
Temporarily.
As you wish.
Sometime.
As you wish. Believe me, this is as you wish. If there ever comes that moment where you allow it to dissolve and it's all you want, and then you allow this you that wants that to dissolve, then it's not temporary. You see, it's your enjoyment of the game that keeps you coming back to the belief that you are the body, that you are the mind, that you want understanding, that you want to awaken, that you want to be enlightened. It's the enjoyment of that game which keeps you coming back. If you lose interest in that game totally, completely, and irrevocably, then you are simply here. Not you, but consciousness, awareness is simply here as being, consciousness and bliss. And there's no desire to go back to the game.
I want to tell you a story. I participate in different type of satsang, and there was practice of self-inquiry. And by this inquiring who is inside, I got the state of pure perceptions. Just was some emptiness inside, relaxations for few days. Really, I was happy. I was thinking, really, I got enlightenment. It's possible with me, with such a difficult person. So it was for a few days. But then I was somehow kicked out from this satsang by um, doesn't matter why, but I was just shocked. I was just enlightenment. I find a real guru. I find enlightenment, and then I was thrown out of it, and I I lost it. I lost this state, and I start thinking this is kind of business. I was cheated because I paid the money, and I was starting asking questions, and maybe the guru don't like me or whatever. So I understand there's a trick, very easy, relatively easy. Once have to come to this state, but it's still a relative and not stable
Yes.
for me at least.
Yes.
Yeah. So I stop using this method and come to vipassana. So it's my story.
Finish with this story. You don't need this story anymore. And don't make up a new story now. Remain here, now, as being consciousness. Let everything else go. It's as though you are sitting on the bank of a river. It appears that the movement is continuous. It never stops. The leaves and the sticks, the trees, the animals, they keep coming and they keep going. They flow by on the river. What is there that you need to do? There's nothing you need to do. You are simply here on the bank of the river. Enjoy.
You might miss your flight. Then you're out of
If you miss your flight because you're sitting on the bank of the river, yeah, you didn't need that flight anyway. Yeah. The hardest thing for this conceptual belief that I am the body is the recognition that there is nothing to do. That if you settle into this present moment awareness, if you fully understand who you are, activity will continue to go on or not, according to the nature of the prarabdha karma which brought you here into this body. The only time you will suffer is if you identify, react, control, cling to what is coming and going down the river. If you forget that you don't have to get up off the bank of the river and jump in there and try to stop all the critters from flowing down, try to grab all the sticks, try to clean the river, and try to push it back from where it was coming. Without these conditioned activities of the mind to react, to cling, to hold on to want to change, to want to make it different, existence simply flows as it's wont to do. If you think you need to know where it's going or what the outcome of your journey will be, you will suffer. Once you let go of the doer, of the need to know, the river flows in its natural way. And you may find yourself someplace you never expected to be. That's how many of you ended up here, isn't it? How many of you 20 years ago envisioned yourself here in this moment, doing this, having this conversation, and yet somehow you ended up here. It's a beautiful mystery, isn't it? Your life is the activity of grace itself. All you have to do is not deny it.
Two weeks I was sitting in Aurobindo ashram.
Yes.
And looking at the crazy mind which was fixated on one person and on a failing relationship and kind of all the stuff.
Yeah.
And one part of me understands that this is crazy.
This fixation is crazy.
Yeah,
yes.
Fixation totally crazy.
Yeah.
But then I thought, like, if I fight this fixation, nothing happens. Actually, it's again, it comes back. So I tried to use it a little bit and and ask who wants love and who's loving. And at some point, I've got a few nice moments just being this love.
Yes.
So my question is, love and awareness, is it the same actually?
Yes.
But it seems that love has some kind of, I don't know, like feeling quality a little bit.
The difference between love that is a feeling and love that is self-nature is that love that is self-nature has no object. Love that is a feeling has an object, either another person or the feeling itself. This is an object. You can see this. That's what you just said. you had these moments of clarity where you felt this love and all was well in those moments. Isn't that what you said? So now, come to understand that this love, which has no object, this is your nature as awareness. This is the most common word, aside from the self or from awareness or whatever, that you'll read in any of the traditions about when the saints and the sages and the great philosophers try to understand what is the meaning of this, that which I am. The word that always ends up being settled on is love. But it's not the love of an object or an emotion. It's the love of being, consciousness, and bliss. And this is its own nature. It's not something I do. You see, this is the difference between a love of an object and love itself.
Let's get back a little bit on this fixation, how I can use it as a practice. Because you said to him,
like you
said to
just
him about breathing. Is it possible just, okay, this fixation is here. It's like some thoughts about the person. Will we be together and all that stuff? And maybe I failed somewhere. Maybe he failed somewhere. And,
yes, but what did you ultimately do? How did you ultimately resolve that? Just a minute ago, you said I just did what? You asked who needs love, right? Or what is this love? Or
I don't remember
who
exactly.
Is this one?
I don't remember exactly. Maybe I even concentrated on that, what is true in that whole story.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was like going through the feeling level.
But this is how you use it, okay? What you were doing is that was an expression of a natural form of inquiry. You didn't need to ask the question, who am I? You simply looked at what was happening within the experiential field, and then you returned to some source about that, and you landed on love, and that you you had some freedom that came, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So this is the form of inquiry that arises naturally once we begin this mental process of who am I, who am I, who am I. Then this other process begins to open in simply the way you described it, which is that as you are in experiences related to tendencies or samskaras, you begin to explore them with the question, how can I use this? Your attention then comes away from the one who is needing and wanting and clinging to the love object and turns toward the source of love. This is what you are doing, so naturally that you didn't know that you were doing it. But this is a consequence or a fruit of taking up the conscious process of inquiry. You begin to examine the behaviors which lead to pain, to suffering, to clinging.
Yeah, exactly. I was just watching all this,
and this happens quite naturally.
Madness.
Yes, exactly. And this is when the process moves from being a mental activity to being the deep exploration of inquiry. You begin to look more deeply at your experience. You begin to look more deeply at not only what are the experiences, what are the consequences of the experiences, but what is the root of this experience. If I think in this way, it leads to this. If I think in this way, it leads to that. If I let go of this, it leads to this. If I let go of that, it leads to this. There becomes a natural understanding of what's happening in the mental process. And this is the answer to the question, how can I use this?
Actually, I remember a little bit. If I tried to do inquiry, it usually failed. Because it was like kind of, I know that it's possible just to ask who's doing, but it didn't come very natural. But this was more that about like what to do that I wouldn't suffer, like that it wouldn't be so much suffering. And then it was like the thought, what if I am love?
Yes.
Kind of like a statement more.
Yes. Beautiful. this is the process of your own inquiry unfolding. So be happy with that. And trust it more than anything else. Trust it, so that when you find yourself in that circumstance, then you can simply ask the question, what if, right? This is the removing of that thorn with a thorn. Instead of becoming that pain and suffering and so on, you say, what if? What if I simply accepted I am love? And you see this in the Indian tradition, in the Advaita tradition, in the Vedanta tradition, where there is this declaration, I am that, right? So I am that is referring to, I am being consciousness bliss, I am love, I am awareness itself, I am that supreme consciousness. And that's why the Mahavakyas are given as a way of uprooting, tat tvamasi, of uprooting these false notions and initially replacing them with the concept of what is true. I am that, you are that. Replacing it with that concept. But eventually, that concept moves beyond conceptual and becomes direct perception, to put it kind of succinctly. But as long as it stays mental, it doesn't happen. It's only when you have this kind of experience which you just described, where you had to sit for 2 weeks in the midst of this difficulty until you finally realized, oh, I see, I am not that suffering. I am this love. This is a good breakthrough. Be happy.
I remembered actually Rumi's story a lot, because that was actually the story of suffering. Probably you know this all Rumi madness for shams, and that how it was also fixation on one person and finding everything in one person.
Yes, one can be fixated on the divine only until one realizes one is the divine. Then this fixation on the outer has to end, even on a saint or a sage, right? On a god or a goddess. Practice until you become that. This is what all the traditions say. Understand that your devotion, your longing, is a longing for the self. Bhagavan said, realize the guru is within. So he would allow people to come. When people would ask him, how did you become a guru? He would say, I'm not a guru. And they would say, well, but look what's happening. And he would say, but that's what they say. Because he was always saying to people, you only get to be here in this position of devotion, dedication, open, loving heart until you realize the truth. And he was very famous for as soon as someone realized the truth of their nature, that they were being consciousness and bliss, he would say, get out. You can't come here anymore. Some of you know this story. This is what he did with Annamalai Swami, with Sadhu Om, with many, many of the... There weren't a lot of people in Bhagavan's life. Understand this great sage. Thousands, tens of thousands of people came to him. And out of that, the number of realized beings was, he probably could count on a hand, that were known to others. I'm sure there were many, but they simply went away and lived in their realized state for the rest of their existence, in the body. But he would do that with people, especially the ones that were closest to him. As soon as they realized their nature as being consciousness, as love, he would say, very good. And he wouldn't permit them in the ashram anymore after that. That was their next challenge. Annamalai Swami talked about this.
The thought came about this simple human relationship, that actually when I inquired why I'm attached to this person, actually the answer was I feel some saintly quality in that. And I don't know what to do with human quality. It's but when I just remember what was like true and kind of true nature of that person,
Yes, but how can you know the saint quality of another without knowing the saint quality of yourself?
yeah,
Huh?
yeah, that's true.
So I just point you back. It is true. People have saintly qualities, yes, as a consequence of their spiritual maturity or their development. There's no doubt about this. But for you, still as this feeling of a separate being, I am a separate being, to feel that quality, understand that that feeling, that perception, is not in relation to the other. The other is mirroring what is here in the heart. So yes, go ahead, see saintly beings all around you. Eventually you will turn and find them within your own being. You cannot find a saintly being if you don't know what that quality is. This is a reflection you're seeing. And I don't say that speaking to your ego. I say that to point you back to your heart. You cannot recognize the sage without knowing her yourself. So I say this to all of you. What has brought you here is not the search. What has brought you here is the finding, to confirm what you already know. And will it come and go? Maybe. Will there be highs and lows? Probably. But the question who is the way to unravel all of that. Know who you are. Remain as you are. If you feel you can't remain as you are, then remember who you are and come back. Come back. Come back. Eventually you won't go anymore.